Hey there, Alex here. The Moto X name is one that comes with great expectations. Maybe not for regular consumers, but for fans of the original Moto X like myself, it's a huge deal. After a year without a new Moto X, we finally have this, the Moto X4. The first thing you'll notice about the phone is that it's all grown up under the guidance of Lenovo. No funky color customizations, no ergonomically curved backs, and no dimple to rest my finger on. It's a premium blend of shimmering metal and glass that looks remarkably similar to the S7, especially with the fingerprint sensor at the front too. I don't mean that in a bad way, because it still looks pretty good. It's just a little sad to see the unique Moto X design go away. But I do like the smaller size though, and this unique sterling blue color gives it a really nice and premium look. While the look and feel of the device itself punches above its price point, the specifications of the phones is just about where it needs to be for a mid-range device. So no Quad HD screen, no Snapdragon 835. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill 5.2-inch Full HD LCD panel, which looks decent for a phone this price. The colors are a little too over the top out of the box, but a quick change in settings fixes that. I would still prefer an OLED panel because that super convenient Moto display feature that shows me all my notifications at a glance looks nicer. The rest of the Moto features that we know and love are still here too, of course, and you get a few newer additions from Motorola too, like the new Moto Voice commands, which I mostly just use to launch apps, the new gesture-based one-button navigation feature, and a new Moto key feature that lets you use the Moto X4's fingerprint sensor to unlock your Windows computer, which is clearly a partnership with Microsoft, since LinkedIn and Outlook are preloaded on the phone. That Moto Key feature is also able to store login details for some apps and websites for easy sign-ins too. But you know, I don't see it as being that useful. How many people do you know that would log out of their Instagram account after use? Anyway, for the most part, the software experience still looks pretty clean and similar to stock Android, and the enhancements are mostly pretty useful. Those that are not are mostly inconspicuous enough that they could be ignored. So despite the not so powerful chipset, the device actually feels pretty snappy. It's not as fast as flagship devices obviously, but it's able to handle most things that I throw at it with ease. Most importantly, the phone is able to consistently last me a day of use quite easily. So while the Moto X4 might not have the best looking spec sheet, I think it will work well enough for most users. Just one more thing about the software. It's not hard to see that Lenovo has been trying to enhance the software experience and tweaking the design here and there. For now, it still looks fine, but I just hope that they will show some restraint. The highlight for the hardware this time round for me is the IP68 water and dust resistance, which means I don't have to worry that much about getting the phone wet. Then for audio, the single speaker actually sounds pretty decent since it's front firing, and you do get a headphone jack still. But the really special feature here is the ability to stream audio to 4 Bluetooth devices at the same time. It uses something called Tempo Audio Profile, which works with just about any Bluetooth speakers or earphones that you have. For me, it's a nice little bonus to be able to share what I'm listening to with a friend, especially while jogging. Which leaves us with just the camera to talk about. It's a dual camera setup with a wide-angle secondary camera. It uses that second camera to enable some interesting shooting modes, but none of them really worked that well. While I like the different perspective the wide-angle camera offers, I can't help but just wish that the main camera was just better. Just to be clear, it's not a terrible camera. It's actually pretty decent for a mid-range phone. The colors are actually pleasing to look at, the image processing looks quite nice, and the camera handles auto HDR well. But it's just not quite at the same level as flagship devices, which should come as no surprise since it's a pretty common compromise for a mid-range phone. The front camera is just about where I expected it to be too, which means decent in good lighting but not that great in low light. Even though it has a front-facing flash, don't expect too much out of it. Overall, it's a decent camera for the price, and as long as you don't pixel peep, the photos looks good enough for me. The Moto X4 is actually a pretty decent mid-range offering from Lenovo, but in the process of trying to update the Moto X lineup to something a little more modern, I think it loses some of the charms of the original Moto X. But I'm not here to shove my feelings and emotions down your throat about how this doesn't feel like a Moto X anymore. I'm here to review the phone, and on its own, it's a phone that I've enjoyed using. In Singapore, you can even get the phone with 2 years warranty and a year of coverage for accidental damages to the phone. So while the price might look a little steep for a mid-range phone, I think when you consider the entire package, It's actually not that bad. Sure, perhaps the processor isn't as powerful and the camera experience isn't as great, but they are still above average for a mid-range phone. For users who don't want to spend too much money, don't really care about having the latest and greatest hardware, and just wants a great looking phone that works well enough for their needs, the Moto X4 could be a pretty good option. Thanks for watching my review of the Moto X4. If you like what you saw, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, and see you guys on the next one.